there is a team that nobody is talking about. There's a team that has two proven stars with an incredible young core. This is a team that is carrying on a legacy of the past, and they just had one of the best off seasons in the NBA. Let's talk about the Memphis Grizzlies. Welcome to 30 Teams in 30 Days. Let's get into it. Memphis is coming off an incredibly solid season despite still being bogged down by injuries, something that's bothered them for the last few seasons, especially with this Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. duo. And despite Ja only playing 50 games, the Grizzlies finished with 48 wins, they finished 8th in the Western Conference, and as we all know, they did get swept by the eventual champion Oklahoma City Thunder, but they were up in Game 3 pretty decisively until Ja Morant was injured. I don't think that they were going to beat them at all in this series, but it still could have been more competitive than a 0-4 sweep. Now, despite a disappointing playoff result, and despite the fact that they were only 8th in the Western Conference with 48 wins, which is insane and just shows how tough the Western Conference is, the Grizzlies' stats were actually pretty impressive. On the season, they had the number 6 offense, the number 10 defense, and the number 6 net rating. They were top 10 in all of these major stats, yet they still had to go to the play-in tournament in order to make the playoffs. And even though the Western Conference is going to be really difficult in this upcoming season, I don't know if that's going to be happening to them again, because the Grizzlies made 3 additions this offseason, and I think that is going to change up this franchise, so let's get into it. The first one, and probably one of the most major ones, was the Desmond Bane trade. So Desmond Bane was traded to Orlando for Cole Anthony, 3 first-round picks, a first-round pick swap, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. One of those picks was for this year, and that turned into Yang Hansen. Hansen, as we know, was a star in the NBA Summer League, and a lot of people are calling him the next Jokic for the Blazers, because the Blazers and the Grizzlies made another trade, and that traded Yang Hansen and picks for Cedric Coward and picks. Now, who is Cedric Coward? Simply put, Cedric Coward is seen as one of the biggest steals in this entire draft. He was a 2-year student at Eastern Washington University before transferring to Washington State University in his junior year. Go Cougs. And for his senior year, he was going to go to Duke, but he also simultaneously declared for the draft. And in the draft, he was drafted 11th overall. And here's the thing with Coward. Because of a shoulder injury, he only played 6 games for Washington State, and it's Washington State, not exactly the most elite competition, but this was a man who was accepted into Duke University's basketball program, and on the year he averaged just about 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists per game on 55, 40, 83 shooting splits. This is an incredible efficiency, and he was one of the best spot-up players and one of the best mid-range and post-game players in the entire country. But the thing with Cedric Coward is he had one of the best combines in this entire draft, and that certainly helped his draft stock. At 6'6", he has a 7'3" wingspan. His 38.5-inch vertical is absolutely outstanding, and on top of that, he's doing that weighing 214 pounds. He is not a skinny guy. His weight, long arms, and athleticism give him a huge defensive potential upside. Some people are even calling him like a next Kawhi Leonard. I wouldn't go that far, but some comparable guys I see are guys like Mikal Bridges, Aaron Wiggins, or Derek White. An elite 3-and-D player who can do just a little bit more when it comes to shot creation. I really think that can be the ceiling for a guy like Coward. He is 22, so typically we don't see that same upside that some other guys might have, just being a little bit later, but at 22 years old, he's also going to be coming into the league probably a little bit more polished. And that's something that we saw from the rookies last year, and that's something I'll talk about in a second, but let's talk about the other guy in this trade, and that was Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. So Pope is coming off of not one of the greatest years of his career. Yes, he's a good 3-and-D player, and he's an NBA veteran, but his stats certainly did drop, as he did average about 9 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists on just 34% from 3 on 4 attempts per game. But I would definitely look for him to bounce back, especially if he's playing alongside an elite playmaker and someone who has gravity in Ja Morant and another star level player in Jaren Jackson Jr. He is only about 32 years old, so he's not exactly at that age where he's starting to decline. So Cedric Coward is a 3-and-D guy that can help them out now, but still has future upside. And then Kentavious Caldwell-Pope plays a similar role, maybe not as much as a scorer as Cedric Coward, but he is an NBA veteran and NBA champion, and you always need guys like that in your locker room. But beyond that, they also got another incredibly valuable signing, and that was one of the best 6th men in the entire league, Ty Jerome. They basically stole Jerome from the Cavaliers, and I love the value that they got from. Ty Jerome signed for a 3-year, $28 million contract to join the Grizzlies. Last year, he averaged about 12 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists on 51, 44, 87 shooting splits. incredibly efficient from the field, and he's a guy that can definitely light it up like he did in the playoffs. Ty Jerome was also third in 6th Man of the Year voting, and he's just a valuable bench player, and he gave a ton of scoring and playmaking, and he really helped carry Cleveland in that first round during Darius Garland's injury. In the playoffs, he had an on-off rating of 11.1 per 100 possessions while averaging 16 points and 5 assists for those 4 games, and he was 10 of 20 from 3. But if you don't know, he did struggle big time against the Pacers. He used all that magic up in the first round, and that was probably a big reason as to why the Cavaliers could not beat Indiana. But Ty Jerome is a great shooter. He is a great backup player who can play alongside a guy like Ja Morant. He's a great spacer. He just adds to this team's overall depth and gives them an incredible 6th man. And let's talk about that guy, Ja Morant. This is obviously Ja's team. He is one of the league's superstars, one of the league's best players. Last year, Ja averaged 23 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists per game on 45, 31, 82 shooting splits. This was a relatively down year for Ja, especially from a touches standpoint, as he just wasn't involved and didn't have the ball on his own as much as we've seen in previous years. He also only played 50 games due to both injuries and suspensions, and this was the year that Ja Morant really cut back on his dunks, only having 17 dunks in the entire season. But of course, it's Ja Morant. He's still one of the best point guards in the league, probably a top 5, top 6 point guard in my opinion, and that showed in the playoffs before he was injured. Of course, they were up in game 3, but throughout the playoffs, Ja Morant had an on-off rating of almost 8 points on offense per 100 possessions. That is incredible. That is not something that can be replicated against one of the best defenses of all time. And going alongside Ja Morant is Jaren Jackson Jr., someone I'm incredibly excited for to see in this upcoming season. So Jaren Jackson Jr., he is coming off of a turf toe injury, so there is a chance that we don't see him in this upcoming season, but the Grizzlies confirmed him for the long term. They signed a 5-year, $240 million contract for the power forward. Triple J is coming off of another great year, 22 points, nearly 6 rebounds, 2 assists per game on 48, 37, 78 shooting splits, and he also managed to play 74 games, demonstrating that health that he lacked from years prior. By his standards and by what I believe he's capable of, this was a little bit of a down year, although he was just an all-star and all-second team defense, and for a guy like that, that can be a down year because I think he's capable of so much more. What's interesting to see is we saw a near 50-50 split of his time between the power forward and center position. I really love this for Memphis. We know JJJ is one of the most athletic forwards and one of the most athletic centers in the league, so playing him at the center position gives you that athleticism, gives you a 5-out possible offense, and it really just allows you to speed up the game. But as we know and as we've seen, teams are getting bigger. It's not uncommon for a team to be running a center at the power forward spot. And Jaren Jackson Jr. is more than comfortable being able to take a center off the dribble and then defend them on the other end because he's one of the best two-way players in the entire league right now. But why is he playing at the power forward position instead of the center? Something he spent a lot of time doing in the last few years? That's because of a man named Zach Edey. So Zach Edey was last year's 9th overall pick who had one of the better rookie seasons in recent NBA history. He averaged 9 points, 8 rebounds, and 1 assist on 58, 34, 70 shooting splits. However, it was his advanced stats that were absolutely incredible and just demonstrated how impactful he was. He had a PER of over 18, he had almost 5 win shares, and a VORP of 0.7. His value over replacement player, box plus minus, and win shares led all rookies who played valuable minutes this year. Zach Edey appeared 5th in Rookie of the Year voting and probably would have been better if it weren't for an injury that allowed him to only play about 50 games. But Edey really demonstrated everything, and he showed that the more typical big men can still make it in the modern game. Despite being a dominant 7'4" post presence who excels on the defensive side of the ball, he also shot 35% from 3 on 1 attempt per game. He adds to Memphis's size, and he's not a guy who's playing developmental minutes, he's playing real minutes that add to wins. He was at his most efficient when he was playing alongside Jaren Jackson Jr., and when you add in his best 3-man lineups, that was with JJJ and Ja Morant or JJJ and Jaylen Wells. Zach Edey is the type of player that leads teams to success, and along with Jaylen Wells, gives the Grizzlies an immediate relevance both now and in the future. And now let's focus on Jaylen Wells because he is a guy who is poised to have a massive breakout season in just his sophomore year. So in his rookie season, the second round pick averaged 10 points, 3 rebounds, and nearly 2 assists per game on 42, 35, 82 shooting splits. While he was supposed to originally come off of the bench, he very quickly earned the starting role, which is incredibly rare for a second round pick. And with those stats that I just mentioned and him starting about 74 games for the season, that actually put him in third in Rookie of the Year voting. And now he's in prime position to break out and become a key contributor to the Memphis Grizzlies. He emerged as one of the team's leaders and an absolute defensive dog. He is 6'7" with the highest vertical of his draft class, and he wasn't expected to be a good defender at all, but it was that effort and that intensity that a lot of those second round picks have, and that's how he ended up guarding and shutting down Steph Curry. But he's not just a guy that came into the league and then suddenly developed to be a good defender, because he also came into the league as a more offensive showing player. He was touted as a great spot-up shooter coming out of college, but he only ended up shooting about 35% from 3. However, he also became lethal around the rim and from mid-range. According to Basketball Reference, he shot 73% from within 3 feet, and from 10 to 16 feet around the free throw range, he shot 62%. That is incredible for someone who can slash, shoot, and defend at that size. He also did have a solid time in the summer league, although I do think he needs to get a little bit more efficient, but this season he's going to be getting more minutes as he's recovered from his wrist injury. And he and Zach Edey are the reason why Memphis had probably the best rookie pairing last season. And there's one more player that I want to talk about, another younger prospect in Santi Aldama. So the 24-year-old Aldama just signed a 3-year, $52 million deal, something I think that this could be a steal for the Grizzlies. Last year, he averaged 12.6 rebounds and 3 assists on 48, 37, 69 shooting splits with above average advanced stats. Aldama is a solid sixth man who is a well-rounded player but is a master of nothing, but he is someone that provides a huge part to his team's depth. At 6'11", he can play the power forward or center position, and he has just enough athleticism to where it's not a mistake for him to be put onto a 3. But while shooting 37% from 3, he is a guy that can space out on the perimeter, and as we saw, 12.5 points per game does not happen by accident, and he's just another great guy to be coming off of the bench. And because of guys like Aldama, Memphis had the 7th best bench in the NBA according to net rating. And if you look at other guys, someone like Scottie Pippen Jr., now adding in Ty Jerome and KCP, these are the reasons why Memphis is going to have another good bench in this upcoming season. But these aren't just random bench players. These are guys with that grit and grind mentality. The spirit of that Zach Randolph Memphis Grizzlies lives on. This Memphis team is one of the deeper ones in the league, and they're one of the more flexible ones in the league when you look at their total size. They have that tough, strong underdog mentality, and this has been something that has defined Memphis basketball for well over a decade. With 2 stars and a group of young, effective players, Memphis is poised to be an exciting team in a difficult, competitive Western Conference. This has been 30 Teams in 30 Days. If you liked the video, you know what to do, and I will catch you all next time.